Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio.
And just welcome everybody who has joined us today, and happy Sunday to you. I'm very excited to be meeting you all, whether it be in the Zoom itself or live on Facebook. Hello, everyone. We are coming together today to introduce the Surrey Green candidates. And I think it's important that we recognize that we are on the unceded territory of I'm personally on Kwantlen territory. I'm not sure if there's various other ones.
Yes.
Everyone, Pixie's on Semiahmoo.
Semiahmoo, Kwantlen, and Catesy.
Absolutely. So we are very grateful to be on this land, and I'm personally determined to be a co-steward of that land. So, and I think I'm speaking for everyone when we say that. So welcome and thank you for joining us, and thank you for having us here. So today's meeting is to introduce the Surrey Green candidates, but we are also very privileged to be graced by the presence of Elizabeth May, who has joined us to answer questions of constituents, various people who are interested in our message and our mission and why we're running and what is so important to Greens and I think the world. So I'm going to go in clockwise based on my screen and get everyone to introduce themselves and give a little bit of a brief synopsis of why they're here and what their role is. And I will start with the person to my personal right, which is Elizabeth May.
Thank you. Well, first of all, happy Sunday morning and brunch Zoom meeting. So just to introduce myself, I'm the Member of Parliament for Saanich Gulf Islands and former leader of the Green Party of Canada. I'm so happy to say that, and really celebrating our new leader, Annemie Paul, who is, she would have been, I know, diving into a whole lot of BC Green events if she wasn't fighting for a seat in the Toronto by-election at Toronto Centre on the very same town. So she and our dear Sonis Furstenau have quite a lot in common, and that Sonia won leadership September 14th, and as we all know, snap election, and she's doing awesome. Annemie won leadership federally October 3rd, but was already a declared candidate in the Toronto Centre by-election. So our vote here, October 24th, Toronto Centre by-election, October 26th, all kind of crazy. So and by the way, the Saskatchewan Greens have a same provincial election, October 24th. And then there's one more that I'm watching, and that's the PEI Greens may win another seat in a by-election that's November 2nd. And then we don't want to talk about what happens November 3rd. It's a different country. It's just kind of the same planet, so we can all be terrified. Anyway, happy to join you and happy to answer any questions anyone has. And it's great to see you.
Awesome. Welcome, Elizabeth. Next to Elizabeth on my screen is Eric O'Dell. Do you want to introduce yourself, Eric?
I can do that, Eric O'Dell. I've got lots of candidates here. I'm just a volunteer. I'm very pleased to be helping and assisting. We had great fun yesterday doing the Burma Shave also with our signs.
Awesome. Welcome, and thank you for coming yesterday, Eric.
Looking forward to today. If the rain will stop, I hope.
Our next person going in clockwise order is Michael. You want to introduce yourself, Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael Claus. I am happy to assist first Rebecca, and secondly, very pleased to meet you, Elizabeth. I'm a big fan of yours. I'm also a fan of the party in the sense that you're willing to do whatever it takes to actually help people and not just follow the status quo of the oil mongers. So, which is a group I've been fighting for the last 15 years since they kicked me out of the oil industry. Okay. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you, Michael. Dean, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Dean McGee. I'm running in Surrey Fleetwood. I'm kind of new to the Greens like Rebecca, but we're definitely finding a home here. We're liking what we've learned already, and I think I'm running this time, but I was running Rebecca's campaign last time around, and I think Rebecca looks like she's having a whole lot more fun this time around.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dean. We're going to go to Assad next.
Hi, hi Elizabeth. Hi Eric. Hi all my fellow candidates. My name is Asad Sayed, and I am running from Surrey Newton. And last year, before last year, I ran for civic election also. And I am new to Green, as Dean said, and as Rebecca. But I am excited, and I am learning a lot. And I hope we'll be able to run a very effective campaign, and you will see the results this time. Definitely much different. It's an exciting team. Everyone is working hard, and the message is going out. The future is green. So that much we can say. Yeah, we'll try our best. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Assad. Nancy, did you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, there I am. Hi. Hi, everybody. Took me a little bit to unmute and get the video running. And as you can see, my husband's quit cooking, but the toaster's still there. So we're good. I'm a Rebecca fan. I like all the rest of you too, but I met Rebecca, Rebecca 3-4 years ago, and we've just continued to hang together off and on since then, even though I travel around a lot and am not really in her sphere all the time. It's pretty obvious that it's time to get serious about the Greens, start to call them a party, like that rhetoric's gone around long enough, and it's time to realize that we have a responsibility, not just towards now, but towards our future, towards the stewardship of the planet. And we have to have that standard political machinations change, right? It's clear what happens when we don't have honesty and integrity in politics. It's clear when we don't understand that the cost of doing business is more than just dollars and cents. It includes the cost for the psychological effect, the community effect, the effect on the environment. I mean, you have to look at all those things much more holistically now to say what the cost is. And the Green Party seems to be the only one that understands that cost is much broader based than just dollars and cents. And so it's the only obvious choice anymore. And here I am supporting Rebecca and saying that's what we need to do. The time has come, you guys. So that's it. I guess I gotta go. He wants to do the dishes, so I'm back losing you on video, and I'll mute the water running. Okay.
Thanks, Nancy.
Bye.
So our next up is Niovi.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see everyone this morning. I'm Niovi, and I ran for the NDP last election. I've been with that party for a very long time. I joined because teachers were struggling to get supports in the classroom. And although the NDP has put in a lot of money and built schools, there are still huge shortages. I'm also over 65 and unable to risk teaching today because the protections that they have put into the school are not sufficient for me and for my 98-year-old mom that I look after. So I've been very disappointed again with the way the party has treated the education file. And I've turned a leaf and it's green. So here I am.
Welcome. Thank you, Niobe. Next up, we have Sue.
I've got to interrupt just to say Yahoo and welcome. Welcome, welcome.
And Sue, do you want to unmute and tell us who you are? Sue Foley-Curry.
Oh, to me. Elizabeth, you introduced me to Pixie without even knowing about it. What happened was you were at the Canadian Federation of University Women national meeting last August, and just before you got up to give your speech, you said, you were talking to a couple of us, you said to me, there's somebody for your riding, Sue, you've got to meet. She's quite the person. Her name is Pixie Hobby. Anyway, so I helped out for the federal. I left the Liberals, helped out for the federal. I'm helping out for this one. And I think I'll stay and help build. But I want to congratulate you for being a model for a lot of people running. And I think everybody's got a model from here on in.
Awesome. Next, I'll go to Tim.
Hi, everybody. What an honor to be in a conversation with you all. I started out as somebody that was appalled that I wouldn't be able to vote Greens in the Surrey South riding. And so I said, well, I'll run if I have to. And ever since that moment, politics was always something in the back of my mind that I just never would have an opportunity to do. And now I've got the bug. And I just love interacting with people and hearing how they're as appalled that I am about. For me, it's the oil and gas. It's that climate change is no longer, nobody's arguing it anymore, at least not in this country. And yet the government seem to have no obligation to actually do anything about it. They just talk and put words and long-term goals. And then as soon as they get elected, they just shelf it. And they don't bring it up to the next election. And so that, along with the snap election to push the Greens and the Green voice out of BC, that was it. I won't be voting for the NDP anymore. And I'm excited to be part of a shift that might take a few years, but hopefully we get a couple ridings here in the Lower Mainland, and then it's history. I think the Greens are going to take over. If my kids are any indication, I almost have 3 teenagers, and they really don't understand why the environment isn't top of the list of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. Jody, do you want to introduce yourself? You have to unmute.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, I think this is the closest conversation I've maybe been able to have with Elizabeth before, but I first kind of met her in person back in just before the 2011 federal election, because I was living in downtown Vancouver, and it was the first time that I actually contemplated running. And so the Greens said, oh, you know what, Elizabeth's in town, come hear her speak. There'll be a bunch of supportive people there. And I went, and it was really amazing. And in an environment where Elizabeth is making a speech like that, it's just so impressive, because she's so passionate, not just about Green Party initiatives, but as a parliamentarian, knowing how things work and how they should work or could work better. That's just something really amazing to hear her talk about. So I was all in for Greens at that point, and it was just in by 2017 I was living out here in Surrey, and totally dedicated to voting a Green Party, and there was no candidate running provincially here in my riding. So similar to how Tim was saying, I said, well, then I guess that just has to be me. And it was me in 2017, and now it's me again here for 2020. And it really comes down to making sure that I get to vote for the party that I want to vote for. I think I'd be a great MLA too, but it really means a lot to me to be able to vote for the party that I want to vote for. I've completely rejected all the strategic voting arguments that get put forward where people are casting votes for their second or third choice just to keep some other person out. And totally doesn't have to be that way. It totally stifles the voice of what you really want to see in government. So I'm all in. And thanks, Elizabeth, for joining us today, because I hope that gathers more interest for all of our Surrey Green candidates. We've got all these little tiny campaigns going here in Surrey, but together, and even with Elizabeth's help, we can make some progress here.
Absolutely, I fully agree. The time has come for Surrey to embrace green. Absolutely. Pixie, you're up next. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. I just had to unmute myself there. Yes, so my name is Pixie Hobby, and I'm running for the Green Party of BC in Surrey, White Rock. I ran for the Greens federally last year, and we really, in this area, which is in ultra-conservative Bible Belt area, we took the Green vote, which was around 2.3 to about 8.7 or 8.9. So there, we are really catching on fire here at the Greens. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there are a lot of young people moving into the area. And also we had a massive destruction of the pier in White Rock as a result of a violent storm, uncharacteristically violent storm that happened in December of 2018, and this historic pier was destroyed. And I think it was a wake-up call for a lot of people who were inclined to believe that climate change may have been not quite real. And so I think that helped as well. But it's more a consciousness raising. And I feel that this time around, thanks to Elizabeth as a role model and how extremely well Sonia did in the leadership debate, I think a lot of people are starting to go, maybe those Greens don't just eat granola and hug trees. And so I can see that in a lot of my friends that have come by to my house to make me cash donations and to pick up signs, people that I would least expect, business people. I was very surprised yesterday when one of them came by. And I think there's definitely a momentum growing. And I think what helps is the fact that we have a diversified platform focused on COVID recovery, but interwoven with disemboweling, if I can use that word, the fossil fuel industry and channeling a lot of energy in towards jobs in the clean energy sector, so that people can see that we are not anti-economy and that we are a one-issue party. So I think that's really catching on here, and I'm expecting to be surprised by the outcome next Saturday, hopefully.
That's if we hear next Saturday. I understand it could be up to 16 extra days or even longer for us to get the actual results. Last I heard, there were over 750,000 mail-in ballots requested for this election. So that's going to take some time to count. But I personally think that we're going to be surprised regardless. Barbara, would you like to introduce yourself? You'll have to unmute.
Unmute, and here I am. My name is Barbara Murphy, and I'm calling in from Victoria, Beacon Hill riding over in Victoria. And I happen to be on Jody Murphy's campaign. And just by coincidence, we have the same last name. How about that? And I want all of you to know how proud I am of the people who are running for the Greens. Jody comes from a family where We were always interested in politics. She spent years watching me and her grandfather watch all the debates and everything else on TV. And she stands up for what she believes in. I mean, who can argue with that? And that's what you're all doing. And so I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. You represent the changing of the guard, not just in BC, but in the world. And anybody who thinks that, you know, post-COVID, we're going back to business as usual, hasn't begun to appreciate the ways that it's going to change. And I'm one of those people who thinks that the outcome of this election, I fingers crossed, people, and go Jody, go.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Barbara. I guess I see that we have another person joining us, but has not actually connected with the audio yet. So we're waiting on her to resolve, but I will take this moment to introduce myself. I am Rebecca Smith. I am the candidate in Cloverdale, Cloverdale. As you may have gathered from the statements from folks here earlier, I did run last time in 2017. I actually ran for the NDP in 2017 in the same riding. At the time, I thought that their platform made the most sense, and I truly believed in what I was fighting for. Unfortunately, what I was fighting for was the cessation of the Site C development, the cessation of LNG. I was fighting for better funding for our schools and more respect for our teachers, better healthcare, a variety of things that were on our platform that the NDP has failed to deliver. The reason I'm running green is because I got tired of trying to defend what a party I believed in was doing. And finally, when the snap election happened, it wasn't something that I could explain away or excuse anymore. That, in my mind, is a complete disrespect for the people of British Columbia. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We have had a concurrent emergency of opioid deaths. We have had a summer when we had the worst air quality in the world in Vancouver because of the fires from Washington State, as well as the fires in the Okanagan and various other parts of British Columbia. I was wearing a mask because of COVID, but also because I could not breathe. And that is a brilliant analogy for my feeling of being within the NDP party. I couldn't breathe anymore trying to defend those kinds of disrespect. So the election came, it disrespected the people, it reached an agreement made in good faith with a partner that was working and operating in good faith and who had recently reiterated their intention to keep doing so. It reached all sorts of other promises. There was an obfuscation of their equity mandate. There is a lot of things that were going on, and I just could not stand it. I cannot stand for a party that does not stand by its word or for the people that put them in power. And so I looked around and I looked for integrity. I looked for accountability. I looked for protection of our future, our environment, things that matter and make a difference. And that I found with the Green Party. And I am privileged and honored to be allowed to stand with the BC Greens in this election. I hope that I make a difference, and I would love to be the representative for this riding. I think it's important that we as a party stand for the people. We don't stand for answering to party bosses or huge money donors. We are not about special interest groups. We are about taking care of our three homes, our world, our health, and our mind. And all of those things come together to keep us healthy and sustainable and build us into the future. So that's why I'm running with the BC Greens. I have always been political. Since I was 7 years old, when my mom told me that in order to help the children I saw on the ads for Christian Children's Fund on Saturday morning, we could send money, but it was more important to make a political difference, to get the people who could make the biggest systemic changes that will save everyone was more important. So I have always wanted to make that difference. I have always wanted to help people, and I'm fighting to do it. So that's why I'm here, and that's a little bit about me. So we do have some people joining us, and I'm just not sure. Does anyone have any specific questions that they'd like to address, or they want to expand on in terms of policy or the struggle in Surrey? We're all so quiet with that mute button.
I just like to say that there's quite a few of us here that are former NDPers and just as disappointed as you were, and here we are. I also want to say that one of the reasons that that clinched it for me was the leadership of Sonis Furstenau. She is so dynamic and so kind in the way she approaches politics. And when she says we need to do politics differently, she just evokes trust. And she reminds me of the Prime Minister of New Zealand so much. I'm glad that she's leading the BC Greens.
I concur, absolutely.
To jump in a little bit too. I mean, I want to thank you for acknowledging what an amazing job Sonia is doing. And there's been, I mean, I think we're in a pretty good group here. I'm just looking at who's around in the conversation. So I hope it won't hurt anybody's feelings if I say that women in politics are always dealing with a lot of misogyny. And it's been my experience as a leader within the Green Party. There were a lot of really great men running for leader of the federal Greens, but I have to say I was so relieved because I hated the thought of our little girls watching any more leaders debates at the federal level. And if the Greens hadn't, and it was up to our members, I mean, they were very strong people, and I don't want to make it sound like people should only vote for women, but I was really relieved that Annamie Paul won, because I hated the thought of little girls watching the leaders' debates in whenever they happen next with Trudeau and O'Toole, and and no women on stage, right? So Sonia's leadership really matters. And I think that comparison that you just made to Jacinda Ardern is really a strong one. And I just wrote my usual Sunday morning newsletter about this because I'm very close friends with a lot of the global Greens leaders, where Greens are global in 90 countries around the world. But some of the leaders, we're kind of like, it's my only peer group. It's the only place where I can actually say vent, like, oh my God, this is driving me crazy. So, but James Shaw and Marama Davidson, New Zealand has a system of dual leaders, co-leaders within the Greens, and Marama is Maori and James isn't. But it's so cool what Jacinda Ardern is now doing, and I don't know if people have heard, Greens did fantastic in the New Zealand election. They were sort of underestimated. This may sound familiar. They'd been in a confidence and supply agreement with Labour for 3 years. So if it wasn't for the New Zealand Greens, Jacinda Ardern wouldn't have been prime minister at all, because her party had fewer votes in the last election in 2017 than the right-wing National Party. So it's kind of cool, the parallels, but people underestimated the Greens going into this election, and they have proportional representation in New Zealand, mixed member proportional. They have fair voting, but Jacinda Ardern's so popular, and rightly so. So she got a majority of the seats, but the Greens didn't get wiped out. We got a really big surge at the last minute because people realized, okay, we don't have to worry about strategic voting. The right-wing party is dead in the water. Again, parallel to BC, remind everybody, no risk of a right-wing. We're going to have Horgan as premier no matter what. So do you want strong Green seats to keep him accountable? And we know he breaks his promises. We can add them up, Site C, old growth logging. Oh my gosh, every tool in the toolkit, that one drives me a little crazy. Today he's saying that demonstrations just are counterproductive. And I'm thinking, okay, so I got arrested with Kennedy Stewart fighting Kinder Morgan Pipeline. Was that counterproductive, Mr. Horgan? Because I kind of thought it was the thing that we were all agreeing on. Never mind. Jacinda Ardern just has been in conversations with James Shaw and Marama Davidson, our Greens in New Zealand. It looks very much as though, and I might cry, even with a majority of seats for Labour, she's going to include Green MPs in her cabinet because government's just better. She says the talent from the Greens in New Zealand, she doesn't want to bypass that talent. So it's just like New Zealand for me is rising as this great example of inspired, compassionate female leadership and a willingness to say, okay, so we have an election. She now has 100% of the power if she wants it, but she wants to share it with the smaller parties. So be inspired by that in this week that we've got left, I think BC voters might shift in the same way that New Zealand voters did at the last minute. Like, we don't want Greens to have less votes. We want to have way more because it sends an important signal knowing that we're going to have an NDP government.
I think that's important to say, absolutely. I think that it's very clear when we watched our leaders debate on television the other night, it was very clear who was thinking about the future, who was willing to collaborate and work towards a cooperative future sustainable for all, and who was really just about beating down the other guy and taking all the power. Because it's not about power, it's about the people, and it's about taking care of our world. It doesn't make any sense to keep making your car shiny and brightly colored if it doesn't have a motor. If you can't make that car move, then what's the point of dolling it up? It won't work. We all have to work together, and it's about the people. And as a people, we have the ability to make a difference. I personally would like to see a summer where we are not choked with smoke, and where we're actually walking our talk about beautiful British Columbia and valuing and taking care of our unbelievable beauty that we have been blessed with. Dean, you're off mute. Do you have something to share with us?
I do. I just wanted to make a little comment about Surrey per se. All the ridings, we've got great candidates. They're out there. They're learning what's going on in the ridings. Surrey is probably the most ignored combined riding area, I think. Well, other places in Canada too have the same thing, where you have a group of ridings. And Surrey's going to be bigger than Vancouver next year. Okay, and every month we have 5,000 people moving into Surrey. And for some reason, the NDP and the Liberals and the Conservatives seem to think Surrey's easy picking. They'll just throw one of their big names in there, and because they're a big name recognition, they'll take all the votes. They have no interest at all in Surrey, right? It's all Vancouver, Victoria, other places. And yet here we have 5 ridings. It'd be bigger than Vancouver in a year, with the most diversity there is, that other people from the UK and Japan and other countries say, wow, look at this place. And so the question is, during this week and then after this week, what can everybody be doing? Because even the media doesn't know where Surrey is, where the boundaries are. They have no idea. Just somewhere out there, you go over a bridge or under a tunnel, and there's people out there, whatever they do, and they're coming in and bothering us in Vancouver. That's about it.
It's taken forever to get any sort of attention to Surrey. Old maps from when I was a kid might have pegged White Rock or Cloverdale, but not Surrey. The fact that Surrey's been the largest school district for something like 10 or 15 years, but the media still won't go past Boundary Road and talk about Surrey schools. They're always talking about Vancouver. So I've made that a priority. I went through my my media from the last year when I decided to run and found that I had I had 6 media pieces that I could find in the files, plus a bunch of radio pieces that didn't actually have any records that I could put out on the internet. But the kind of thing that Surrey is getting so close to the size of Vancouver, we don't get any attention. It's now 11 MLAs for Vancouver and 9 for Surrey. I mean, 8 3/4 if you count White Rock, but 9. So we've gotten bigger and bigger. We passed Vancouver in schools. And now the health authority, I didn't understand this until we had already been in COVID for a couple of months. They'd keep saying, well, there's more cases in Fraser Health than there are in Van Coastal. Look at this, there's more cases in Fraser Health than there are in Van Coastal. There's 50% more people in Fraser Health. Van Coastal is way small. It's 1.2 versus 1.8 million. And yeah, I had to get a spreadsheet and do the math to find that number because nobody put it out anywhere. So Van Coastal did do a little worse in COVID Fraser did a little worse than Van Coastal, but overall, we're 50% more, even in the health authority, but we just don't get the attention. And that's on all the local politicians. Now, suddenly, McCallum, he decided it wasn't enough to just trump up the whole campaign. Now he's decided to trump the whole way that he runs as mayor, that he acts as mayor. So now he's getting attention for his insanity. But up until now, the MLAs, from the time that we went from 2 MLAs to 3 the first year that Marvin Hunt ran, to 5 to 7 to 8 to 9, and the school board with 6 representatives for 600,000 people. Of course, you don't know who your school trustees are. And the city council, again, up until the McCallum years, all the Diane Watts people were all super quiet and just, towing the line of fearless leader. And now it's pretty obvious she's going to try to come back on the 25th for the Liberal Party, and she'll probably try to tout the fact that she's coming from Surrey, but she's not gonna do anything for Surrey anyway. Didn't really do that much the first time. Yeah, I voted for her.
Dean, sorry to interrupt you, but
do it. There you are.
Yeah, the whole thing that for 17 years the Liberals underfunded students, and the NDP promised that they would increase funding. When the bargaining started, over and over, the teachers said that BC is one of the lowest per pupil funded regions, and yet nothing. We again ask that no money is used from the operation funding to pay teachers and staffing. And yet again, no increase in operational funding. And I'm sorry, the trustees, I don't feel confident that they have spoken out enough for Surrey, and that's why I ran for trustee. The bargaining just went on and on at a period when teachers were so stressed. And again, they put in front a prevalence model. The NDP put in a prevalence model, which we had to fight tooth and nail because it would have taken away our Supreme Court win, which guarantees class size and composition for teachers. So today we have a mishmash of supports all across BC. And why I like the Green Party is because it's stated clearly that we need to ensure that every child is equal, whether you're living in a wealthy area such as White Rock and South Surrey, where schools have, anything that they could wish, tablets, computers, extra money for teachers to bring in specialists from outside, all the way to Prince George and the outskirts kids need to be the same. Public education is our number one priority, or it should be, if we want a bright future. And as a teacher, I support the BC Greens, and I'm hoping that this time around people will vote Green. And this whole idea that the Greens are conservative, fiscally conservative, the platform points out people first. And to me, that's, everyone knows that in this time of COVID, we need to spend in order to get the economy going after this is over. And again, I encourage people to go and to read the platform of the BC Greens and make sure that you vote.
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I just wanted to take a moment because Elizabeth's only with us until noon today. So I just wanted to make sure that if anyone had any questions or that they wanted to specifically talk to her about, they had the opportunity. We have about 15 minutes left with her before she's off to Main Street with one of our other candidates.
Yeah, I have to ask with Elizabeth. As you know, I'm in Surrey, I think, as the most neglected area. And I did not find much here for Green Party base. But I saw the desire, especially in the young people, they are coming towards the Green. And so we have to establish some kind of really a base here for Green to recruit more youngsters, which really want to see the change, and they are with the Green Party. Really the students who are just reaching the voting age, I'm getting a lot of support from them. They are coming themselves and they are phoning me, and they say, yeah, we are calling to our friends to vote the Green. So really we have to, all the candidates from Surrey, I will request them, we don't have to end this just to the election. We have to continue this one to make the base here. There's a lot of potential here because the people are suffering here. A lot of, as say, schools are not in good conditions, parks are not bad, crime are really skyrocketing, and people are concerned, and we have to take this opportunity. Like my opponent, Harry Benz, he's getting this seat last 15 years. He's getting elected from NDP, and people are tired of him. So that's what I will say. Whatever results come from the election, I hope our number will increase substantially high. But we have to keep this momentum, and we need the help from our head office, from Elizabeth or Eric or from Sonia, to establish this constituency, 7 constituencies.
I want to say, I've learned a lot. I was just put in the chat how much I've learned from, that analysis that Dean is talking about going and digging up the numbers and saying, oh, okay, so this health district has more people in it. I've heard during the same newscast without ever putting that together. So I think, I don't control anything about anything in terms of where, and I didn't as leader of the Green Party federally either. Leaders are not, it's like leader schmeater. You don't have any, the staff doesn't have to, there's nobody reporting to us. It's really keeping good people elected to councils within the Green Party, because the job of leader is to be chief spokesperson. But I definitely think there's really a lot of room to build right across BC. And what you're experiencing, to have young people coming to you, that is super cool, because that didn't happen. I can tell you in 2019, we weren't seeing that. I think more people were fooled by, like, I remember walking in Montreal, being in a march of 500,000 people for climate action. And it was as though when it was over, well, okay, a Liberal vote or an NDP vote or a Green vote, pretty much the same, because it was almost like a pride parade vote, right? Scheer doesn't march in pride parades. And if you marched in the parade for climate, it was like an equivalency of commitment and understanding. Whereas if people looked at our policies, they would have seen right away, even climate strikers looking at policies would see right away, Greens are the only ones who have a policy on climate that's actually driven by the science. I feel like something shifted. I feel like people are saying, wait a minute, I don't want to be fooled again. It's not enough to walk in the parade. My favorite by the way, my favorite coverage of the climate marchers that day was when, with Greta Thunberg meeting, and she's, I've met her, but she wouldn't ever want to have any publicity about. No pictures of me with her could be used in the campaign because she wanted to stay very nonpartisan. But my favorite article out of that was the Beaverton one that had the picture of Trudeau and Greta Thunberg, and he was saying, I like her so much. I'm in her honor. I'm going to name our next pipeline after her, right? So it's like, which really kind of summed it all up for me. But this time around, I'm sensing a shift, right? So the Dogwood people on Vancouver Island, who've generally never done anything other than campaign, every environmental group basically says we're not going to be partisan, but generally doesn't campaign for Greens because they're more worried about, the worst people getting in, so they'll support the second worst. It's really a shift. And I think the young candidates we have one right here on Vancouver Island whose riding is part of my federal riding, Kate O'Connor, who started the race at 17 and just turned 18. And she's really wowing the media because they go to interview her. And there was this guy from the Toronto Star who had told this little story on himself. He said, he went to interview her and he was thinking, okay, well, I better not be like this older, patronizing journalist talking to a 17-year-old. And he said within 3 minutes of the conversation, he realized, what was I thinking? She's more impressive than most of the candidates I've been interviewing from the other parties. So I think that truth that you just spoke, that we have to keep investing in community between elections. We have to come back. Maybe when we get through this pandemic, whenever the heck that's going to be, we could plan an event. I would come anytime that we could do it. It's not that far for me to come down to Surrey, White Rock area or wherever is the best congregating place and do an event that keeps building on what you guys are doing now to build a base. I mean, Pixie, I did an event with Pixie in the federal campaign in White Rock. I can't remember when it was, but we switched in that really fun bakery with the way too good, yummy treats. But we can do like that kind of thing. This is what I'm really happy about the transition of leadership in the federal party now, is that, and it's really rare to pull off in politics, is a friendly, helpful transition. I mean, even within the Greens, thanks to Andrew Weaver's behavior, it's not all that easy, apparently, right? But certainly Tom Mulcair did not campaign with Jagmeet Singh, and Paul Martin was never supported by Jean Chrétien. I mean, this inter-party, internal knifing each other in the back. It doesn't happen in the Greens, except for this one example. Sonia is a loving, caring, compassionate human being, and so is Adam Olsen. But it's really cool that with Annamie Paul as leader, I'm hoping my time can be more my choice of where I want to invest my time to go build Greens at the grassroots so that we're ready for the next provincial campaign, ready for the next federal campaign, whenever they come. And as you said, with so many key issues for school boards, I mean, nothing's out of reach. We just got to keep building. And Michael, to your question on the chat, I'd be very happy to do a podcast sometime, right? Because we just need to you've got momentum right now. If people are reaching out to you, Assad, and young people are calling you, that's golden. That doesn't happen all that much. I think something's happening.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's a big shift around. I mean, you'll surprise. And this news you gave us, thank you very much sharing the New Zealand news that Green Party is included in the power. This will give us a boost, and I will be using this in every day till election in my riding, because I know people will love to listen that. I know the demographic and ethnicity, so they will love to listen that. So this is great news. Thank you very much for sharing.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.